In 1954, Plymouth shocked the automotive world. Imagine a brand known mostly for building practical family sedans suddenly unveiling a car so exotic, so stylish, that it looked more like a Ferrari than something you'd find in a suburban driveway. This car wasn't just unusual, it was mysterious, almost forgotten by history. I'm talking about the 1954 Plymouth Explorer Ghia, a rare Italian-designed concept car that was part beauty queen, part engineering marvel and part marketing enigma. Here's the real kicker. Plymouth built only 2 of them, and for decades people weren't even sure if they had survived. Some whispered that they were lost forever. Others claimed they were tucked away in secret collections. But today, we're pulling back the curtain on all the shocking secrets behind this car, from why it was built, to what made it so revolutionary, to how it vanished from the spotlight. Oh, and before we dive in, smash that subscribe button like you're smashing down the throttle on a 1950s V8 barreling down Route 66. Trust me, you don't want to miss the kind of hidden automotive history we uncover here. Now let's unravel the mystery of the Plymouth Explorer Ghia. Let's start with the obvious question, why Plymouth? In the 1950s, Plymouth was America's solid middle-class car. If Chevrolet was the most popular and Ford was the everyman's car, Plymouth sat comfortably in 3rd place. They weren't flashy, they weren't luxurious, they were dependable, the kind of car you'd buy if you had a growing family and didn't want to spend too much. But by the early 1950s, Chrysler Plymouth's parent company was desperate to make its cars seem exciting. GM had Harley Earl's jaw-dropping concept cars at Motorama. Ford was experimenting with futuristic dream machines like the Lincoln Futura. Plymouth, meanwhile, had, well, family sedans. Not exactly poster material, so Chrysler had an idea. What if Plymouth could borrow some Italian magic? What if they could show the world that Plymouth wasn't just practical, it could be glamorous, daring and modern? This is where Carrozzeria Ghia comes into the story. But what made Ghia such a perfect choice? That's a secret rooted in their design philosophy. By the early 1950s, Ghia had established itself as one of Italy's most creative design houses. Unlike some of their rivals, who focused exclusively on race cars or luxury one-offs, Ghia had a knack for blending elegance with practicality. Their cars looked exotic but weren't completely divorced from reality. They had already impressed Chrysler with several collaborations. The Chrysler Special 1952 and the Dodge Fire Arrow concepts had stunned audiences with their low, sweeping lines. Chrysler realized something. Ghia could give American cars a sense of European flair that their own designers simply couldn't. And here's a fun little detail. Because labour in Italy was cheaper than in the US at the time, Chrysler actually saved money building small runs of handmade concept cars through Ghia instead of trying to do it in Detroit. So not only were they stylish, they were economical in a weird way. When it came time for Plymouth to make a splash, Ghia was the obvious partner, and what they came up with was nothing short of jaw-dropping. But the real surprise wasn't just in the looks, it was in what they hid under the hood. Let's talk performance. Because unlike many concept cars of the 1950s, which were basically fiberglass shells pushed on and off display stands, the Plymouth Explorer Ghia was a real car. Underneath that handcrafted Italian body sat an American V8, the 241 cubic inch high-fire V8, delivering around 150 horsepower. Now, to put that in perspective, the average Plymouth sedan in 1954 came with a 6-cylinder engine making around 100 horsepower. So the Explorer had 50% more power right off the bat. And because the Explorer was lighter than most production Plymouths, thanks to Ghia's aluminum bodywork, it probably felt even quicker. 0 to 60 times weren't officially recorded, but estimates suggest it could do the sprint in under 12 seconds, which was seriously fast for the early 50s. And here's something that makes me laugh. While Plymouth sedans were being sold to school teachers and accountants, here was this sleek, Italian-bodied concept with a roaring V8 that could leave them in the dust. Imagine explaining that to your Plymouth dealer. Yeah, I saw the Explorer at the auto show, and now I'm here for a beige 4-door sedan with hubcaps. But, as wild as the engine was, the design was what truly made people's jaws drop. The Plymouth Explorer Ghia looked like no Plymouth before it. It had a long, flowing hood, a delicate egg crate grille, wraparound glass, and a fastback-style rear that gave it a sense of motion even when standing still. From some angles, it looked almost like a Ferrari 250 GT. From others, you could see the influence of Maserati and Alfa Romeo coupes of the same era. The interior was just as breathtaking, rich two-tone leather, chrome accents, and a dashboard that felt handcrafted, almost nautical. Ghia's interiors always had a yacht-like quality, elegant, spacious, and a bit flamboyant. Here's the thing. Plymouth buyers in the 1950s had never seen anything like this. It was like a dad in khakis suddenly showing up in an Armani tuxedo. Stylish? Absolutely, but totally unexpected. And here's the question that must have haunted Chrysler executives. If Plymouth could look this good, why didn't they? Why didn't this car make it to production? This is the million-dollar question. Why didn't Plymouth put the Explorer into showrooms? Well, there were three big reasons. One, cost. The Explorer's body was hand-built by Italian craftsmen. Reproducing that in mass production would have been nearly impossible. Two, market mismatch. Plymouth's brand identity was affordable and reliable. Dropping an exotic Italian sports coupe into their lineup would have confused buyers. Imagine advertising a Ferrari-style Plymouth next to their practical station wagons. 3. Timing. The mid-1950s were an era of booming sales for Plymouth's regular cars. They didn't need a flashy coupe to sell units, so instead the Explorer became a show car, something to impress crowds, not something to sell. It appeared at auto shows, wowed audiences, and then disappeared into the shadows. But here's where the mystery deepens. Only two were built. So what happened to them? Here's where things get truly fascinating. Two Explorers were built by Ghia. One was painted in a deep metallic green with a tan interior, the other in a more muted silver blue. For years, their whereabouts were unknown. One was rumoured to have been shipped back to Italy and lost. The other supposedly stayed in the US, but vanished into private collections. In the 1980s, whispers began circulating that one Explorer had survived in unrestored condition. By the 1990s, collectors finally confirmed it. At least one Explorer had made it, and it was in remarkably good shape. Eventually, it was painstakingly restored and shown at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, where it stunned audiences all over again. Imagine a Plymouth, sharing the stage with Ferraris, Bugattis and Rolls-Royces, and actually holding its own. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Some historians believe Plymouth deliberately downplayed the Explorer after the shows. Why? Because it was too good. It made their regular cars look boring. And if you think that's wild, wait until you hear how much this lost Plymouth is worth today. Let's be real. When you think of million-dollar cars, you probably picture Ferraris, Lamborghinis, or maybe rare American muscle cars like a Hemi Cuda. You don't think Plymouth, but the Explorer is different. At auctions today, it's valued in the multi-million-dollar range. Yes, a Plymouth worth Ferrari money. That's the kind of twist no one saw coming. Why so valuable? Three reasons. Rarity. Only two built, maybe only one surviving. Design pedigree, styled by Ghia, one of the great Italian houses. Historical significance. It represents a what-if moment in American automotive history. Think about it. If Plymouth had actually built this car, their image as a brand might have completely changed. We might be talking about Plymouth today in the same breath as Corvette, Mustang, or even Ferrari. But instead, it became a ghost of what could have been. This is the fun part. Speculation. What if Plymouth had mass-produced the Explorer? Maybe it would have become Plymouth's Corvette, a halo car that gave the brand prestige. Maybe it would have attracted younger buyers who wanted something sporty but couldn't afford a Ferrari. Or maybe it would have flopped. Maybe buyers would have said, why pay extra for a fancy Plymouth when I could buy a Chevy Corvette or a Thunderbird? We'll never know for sure. But one thing's clear, the Explorer gave us a glimpse of a Plymouth that could have been a Plymouth that dreamed bigger than sedans and station wagons. Even though the Explorer never went into production, it had a subtle but lasting impact. Its wraparound windshield, flowing lines, and low-slung stance influenced Chrysler's later designs. You can even see echoes of it in the Chrysler turbine car of the 1960s. And more broadly, the Explorer proved something important. Americans were ready to embrace European-inspired styling. Within a decade, we'd see Mustangs, Camaros and Barracudas, all cars that owed something to that marriage of American muscle and European elegance. So while the Explorer may have been forgotten by most, its DNA lived on in ways no one could have predicted. And there you have it, the shocking hidden story of the 1954 Plymouth Explorer Ghia. A car that was too bold for its time, too exotic for its brand, and too beautiful to be forgotten. It showed us what happens when American engineering meets Italian artistry. It gave Plymouth a moment of glamour it never had before. And today it stands as a priceless reminder that even the most practical brands can dream big. If you enjoyed this deep dive into forgotten automotive history, make sure to subscribe to ABD Tech Lab for more stories like this. Because trust me, the next car we uncover might just blow your mind even more. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep exploring the roads less traveled.